Hello everyone. Welcome again here from Chuo, and today we are with Magreth Kakoko. She actually graduated from University of from MIT with a bachelor degree in civil engineering, and she's now doing a master's degree again in engineering, and she will take us through her journey from Tanzania all the way to MIT, and currently doing her master's degree. So welcome, Margaret.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for asking. What about you?
I say Happy New Year, Bana.
Thank you. Happy New Year na pia.
Nashukuru sana. So Karibu to hear from Tio, and a lot of students out there and parents, they're looking forward, like, how did you make it to US? So can you tell us a bit about your background to Tanzania? Where did you go for like schools, at least from secondary school to high school? And then how did you get to MIT?
Yeah. I don't know if it's a very, very interesting story, but I did my O levels. So like the normal Tanzanian curriculum has like O levels and A levels from 1 to Form 4. I did that at St. Francis Girls in Bear, St. Francis Girls Secondary School.
Yeah.
Then after that, I did my A levels, so Form 5 and Form 6 at Marian Girls High School. In A levels, I specialized, majored based in PCM.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to do engineering and all that stuff in university. So I did PCM from 5 and 6 at Marian Girls High School. Yeah, then from there, I went to MIT for civil engineering. How I got into MIT, I guess, is a whole other story, which I don't know if you asked me about, but I'll answer if you ask.
Oh, thanks. By the way, congratulations. Yeah. So to give people an idea about MIT, actually, MIT is one of like top 5 university in the world. Like it's the best university in the world. So getting to MIT, you need to be like extremely super talented and exceptional. So yeah, so Margaret is one of those super talented students who managed to get to MIT. So yeah, you mentioned a bit about your secondary school and high school, but you didn't tell us like what did you score there? Because like people, they're like, okay, so we want to know, like, did you score Division 1, which point, and yeah.
I did okay, I would say. In my Form 4s, I had a 1.7.
Oh.
Then, well, yeah, for my O levels, I had a 1.7. Then for my A levels, I had a 1.4.
I'd say congratulations, actually. Oh, that's really exceptional.
Thank you.
Yeah. So from like this, let's start with the O level first, right? Like because like a lot of students actually they are looking into getting to those levels, like, right, like getting 0.7 or 0.4 or 0.3, right? And some they are making it, others they are getting closer to it, and others they are completely off the point, right? So can you tell us a bit about how did you really manage to get 2.7? Like what were like the magics around that?
Yeah. That's an interesting question, and I would say my answer to that question has changed over the years. It has changed over the years. It has changed as I have gotten more exposure, and also I would say a bit more maturity. Spoken to more people and all that. And so I don't know where I currently stand. At least I see it. I see that, I don't know, success or good performance as a product of two things. First, of course, is privilege, the resources that I was privileged to have. I went to a very, very good school as far as Tanzanian standards are concerned. Good in terms of teachers. St. Francis has some of the best teachers in the country. Good in terms of organization. I would say the most organized. And this is something that a lot of people who have gone to that school, and even those who have had the privilege to visit, can attest to. So really, really well organized, like to the most minute of details, and that can make a huge, huge difference in the way one performs. And you can see that when you look at the school's results, like overall, leave alone individual results of people like me.
Yeah.
So that privilege as well. Of course, there are also resources like books and the like. Then you have the history of the school and how that inspires and pushes you. And you always have role models and people to look up to who went to the same school. Then there is also privilege in the fact that, you know, I went to that school in the first place because I had parents who could afford to take me there. I come from a home whereby I was in school, I was studying. I didn't have to worry whether, you know, do people have food? Are my parents fine? Are my siblings fine? And things like that. So there is that privilege. That's the first, that's the first reason. And it's one of the things that I've learned to acknowledge over the years. Then there is the second reason that comes from, I guess, you as an individual, a bit tied up to the first reason, depending on your background. But yeah, you as an individual and how you push yourself and how you motivate yourself. I'm somebody who has always, I don't know, wanted to do well. I do not like failing. Yeah, I do not like failing, and instances in life whereby I have failed have really, really hurt me. And so such situations, the fear of going through such situations and the memory of such situations, like such past situations, have pushed me like to always, you know, try to do well, try to study. So yeah, first thing you need to do well is obviously study. Show up in your classes, do your homework. If you don't understand something, go to teachers to ask. So just doing the basic things, I would say, that a student has to do. At least I was doing those, and I would credit my good performance to those. And I did those because I did not want to fail. Then there is also doing the right thing at the right time. And I would admit that that is something that, like, during the time I was not consciously aware of the fact that, you know, I was actually doing that. But a few years down the line, when I looked back, I was like, yeah, this was one of the reasons, I think, as to why this went well and that went well. So, you know, if it's time for you to study, you actually study, right? Open your books and read. It's time for you to sleep, man. Don't be up at 3 a.m. Reading this, reading that, and at 2 p.m. you're busy doing something else, right? You should be reading. Yeah, if it's time for you to have fun, go have fun to the fullest. I don't know whether it's partying with friends or if it's playing football. I love watching soccer, so I don't know, watching soccer or things like that. Like, do everything at the right time, and it really helps you stay organized, which I think is, I don't know, recipe for success. So yeah, at the top of my mind, I can only think of those two main categories, and within the categories, as I have mentioned, several reasons. I can think of those things as at least the reasons as to why I would say, yeah, I did well.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, actually, yeah, seems like a very, very rich list of ways that student they can get to their very best. So yeah, so one more question is, at that age, right? Like when you're O level, which is roughly 13 to probably 16 years old, right? Yeah, people like people students are still young, not that young, but young, right? So it's really hard to get yourself, first of all, consistently working on something over like these 4 years without like getting off the track, right? Because there are a lot of distractions. For example, if you're, let's say, a boy, you'll have your peers going out clubbing, maybe going out for activities that they don't really contribute to your personal growth. And if, for example, a girl have some sort of distractions from men and stuff like that,
Yeah.
So uh, how did you keep yourself, right? Or how do you advise students to keep themselves focused on this main goal, right? You say do a right thing at the right time, right? Which is
Yeah.
a little bit like harder given that there are a lot of distractions, and
Mm-hmm.
more distraction nowadays is like there are a lot of things like social media where students they want to jump there, and also there are this new problem where some students they have to take their classes online rather than doing them face to face, which means more distraction. So how will you advise a student to do a right thing at the right time? Like how will they stick to their goal and don't care about the distraction?
Yeah, I definitely admit that that's a statement that is easier said than done.
Yeah,
Easier said than done. Like even for adults, right?
yeah,
But yeah, as you're right, that for teenagers, like it's even worse. It's even more difficult.
yeah,
Um, I think I would advise. I cannot say that I consciously did it. Like I actually said it when I was giving that as one of the reasons. Like it's not something that I did consciously. I came to understand a few years down the line that that was one of the reasons, but it's not that I sat down and I was like, yes, I will do this.
yeah,
Um, and so if I were to advise people who want to do it consciously, or even those who are doing it without realizing that they're doing it, among the things they could continue
yeah,
doing, at least I was able to do that because one of the company I kept. Um, so keep the company of people who are like-minded in terms of where you want to be,
yeah,
in terms of goals. Yeah, in terms of goals and things that you want to achieve. So like, because those people will always bring you back on track. It's life. Yeah, you're a teenager. It happens. Distractions will come and stuff like that.
yeah,
But if you have, peers, you have friends, colleagues who are like, hey, this is wrong. Hey, come back. And the next time they fall off track and you're like, hey, no, come back. Hey, we'll get into trouble if we do that or if we do this.
yeah,
Hey, you're falling behind here and there. Hey, you might, I don't know, end up pregnant once it comes to females and all that, right? Like that kind of helps you stay in track. So that's one. Two, if you can get mentors, if you can actually get an active mentor, ask somebody whom you look up to. I don't know, it could be somebody in a class ahead of you, it could be a teacher whom you can actually, I don't know, you feel like can actually mentor you. It could be somebody in the administration of the school you're part of or something like that who could actually mentor you or
yeah,
things along those lines. Or it could even be somebody outside of school, right? But somebody who can mentor you and always help you stay on track. And you can confide in once it comes to your goals, your plans, and things that are sidetracking you and all that.
yeah.
If one can get somebody like that, I think that really helps them weight off distractions and like try to do the right thing at the right time.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah.
helpful. I'm sure like students will want to take this into their heart and like start changing their lives and uh, get to where they want to get in terms of their academic goals. Yeah. So again,
Yeah.
you graduated. Okay. So another question usually people ask is, when you are like the best student, they think maybe you don't like get into like challenges like academically, right? So do you like remember any time that you are like getting hard times, for example, at some subjects, let's say maths or physics or something, and you're like struggling and you're like, oh, I think this subject is really, really hard. But because you are like really determined, you kind of like try to keep pushing, keep trying to learn from others, keep trying to ask questions, and until you came to like, hey, now I'm confident I can, I'm good at this subject. Do you have such kind of situation, or things for you were like straight away, like easy from the day one?
Uh, I mean, I struggled. Yeah, I struggled. I struggled with Kiswahili. That I'll never forget.
Yeah,
I struggled with Kiswahili, and it's definitely something that I got a lot of help in from my peers. I don't remember from my teacher. I don't remember. I remember the teacher, but I don't remember honestly
Yeah,
getting that much help from. Okay, no, from the teacher as well, but that was more of, helping everybody in the class. So I struggled with that particular class in O level. With the other classes, if I'm being honest, no, not as much, not as much. But like even though I did not struggle, like I still did some of the stuff you mentioned, right? Like working with some of my friends, like, hey, let us do, for
yeah,
instance, some of the things that I used to do, like with some of my friends was, we had this, I've forgotten what the book was called, but it was like this small book, maybe some people might know it,
yeah,
this small math book
yeah.
that has a set of exercises.
Oh,
And we would do some questions together. We would do some questions together. So it would be like, today let's do 1 to 20 exercise 20 or something like that,
yeah,
problem 1 to problem 20 of mathematics.
yeah,
And so we'd do that, then we'd grade, either would grade each other's work or would grade our own individual work at the end. Then we'll discuss. We had a lot of discussions, of course, because the school encouraged them. That was one. But two, just for the sake of all of us learning and learning from each other. So
yeah,
there was that as well. So yeah, fine. I did not struggle as much in most of the classes, but I still did some of the things which I believe helped me managing these classes anyway. And some of those are like, yeah, the discussions and exercises. Like for math specifically, like that is something that, again, looking back, I think really, really helped me. Like always, always do questions, always solve questions. For math, for the quantitative side of physics as well, always solve questions, solve them with colleagues, solve them alone. Do discussions and stuff like that. The way, for instance, in Tanzania, like this is specifically for people who are studying in Tanzania, the way the national exams are set, and even most, I don't know, school specific exams, so monthly exams, annual exams, whatever, or even mock exams, the way most of them are set, they have, first, they have like they have a template, they have a specific format that they follow.
yeah,
And yeah, and they work in this way that you have templates such that if you do enough questions, like if you do plenty, if you do a lot, your probability of getting good grades is really, really high because they follow a specific order, they follow a specific format, they follow a specific, like it's not random. The order is not random.
yeah,
So it's well known. So yeah, I guess one of the things people could do to succeed, whether they're doing well or not, is that just try to do as many questions as possible, especially for subjects that are heavy on the quantitative side.
okay, okay, I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mean like at least someone could do roughly how many questions maybe per day or something like that? Do you think like
Uh,
there is something like maybe the standard, or you can just at least do something every day?
yeah, I don't think there is a standard. At least I wouldn't. People differ before and
Yeah.
all that. I would say just make sure that you do something. Do
Uh,
something every day. That's all. Do something every day. And again, specific to Tanzania, I think Kenya as well, because I've seen some of the exams, as far as time is concerned, right? Doing something not only helps to keep you sharp and helps you practice and helps you see different flavors of different kinds of questions, but also you get to practice on your speed. So, if you see maybe speed is one of the areas that you're weak in, right? You want to try to do as many questions as you can manage in a day,
yeah,
10, 20, and you keep on increasing those with time.
yeah,
If what you're trying to do is maybe improve your skill on a particular topic, try to be able to understand it better and to do questions of different flavors, right? You're going to pick, maybe you'll say 5, maybe you'll say 10, depending on the ones you can find. So there isn't a specific number, but one can tune it accordingly based on their need and the area that they're trying to improve on.
yeah, yeah. Thanks. Okay,
Yeah,
that's very, very helpful. I'm sure a lot of students want to pick up this, and yeah, they're gonna practice, practice, practice. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
then from there you move to like high school, right? And
Yeah.
sure, like maybe one more issue that a lot of students they normally like encounter as they're moving from like secondary to high school is like what subject to focus on, right? So like how did you like end up picking PCM? Like any reason, or it was like, oh, because I know maths and know physics and know chemistry, then I have to just do this? Or how did you like end up like doing the PCM?
Okay, yeah. So there are two questions that you asked. I'll start with the second one, then go to the first one. I honestly picked PCM because for two main reasons. One, I was like, oh, I want to do engineering, and it's not like I had like some big inspiration on why I wanted to be an engineer.
Yeah.
My father is somebody I've always looked up to. He's an engineer, and so I've always been like, I want to be like my dad. So that was the reason. Nothing big, nothing. Okay, I was like, I want to be like my dad because he's doing great stuff. He's changing lives and all of that stuff. That good stuff. And so that was one reason, but not that I understood what's really, really in it as much. No. Then the other reason was those were the subjects that were my strongest suit.
I see.
So I felt like I felt like I could have managed them best compared to the others. Yeah. And so I just went to the side that advantaged me. Now as far as other people, so your second question, what I would advise other people. I think the main criteria, like the main thing that somebody needs to look at, first and most important, is what are you good at? Like that's the first and most important, because based on my experience, well, not what I experienced, but what I have seen at least, before I graduated, way after I graduated, like over the years, people end up not doing well in their Form 6 exams. I would say their pre-university exams, because they end up picking combinations that they struggle a lot in, either because, family, parents have certain expectations, or you have certain expectations of yourself, or all your friends are going to take these classes and those classes, and you don't want to be left out, and you decide to take them as well, and it's a bad idea. So I think the first and most important thing that one needs to look at, what am I good at, right? What is my strong suit?
Yeah.
Is it math? I don't know. Is it biology? Am I good at memorization? Is memorization my thing? If it is, that means I can manage something like biology, I can manage history, I can manage, and all that. Am I a good writer? That means you can manage a class that is heavy on the literature side, heavy on essays and things like that, right? So that's first and most important. Then the second one, of course, is what do you want to do, right? Which I feel like at the age of 16 and 17 anyway, for most people, not everyone, but for most, it's a bit early to answer that question anyway. But if you have an inkling of what it is that you want to do, you could add that as a reason as well, but don't make it the first reason. If you don't, just go with whatever you're really good at, because at the end of the day, no matter what combination you choose for your A levels, there is always something you can study in university, something that is productive, that can help you contribute in society and also earn an income down the line and all that. So yeah, that's my take on that.
Oh yeah, sure. Thanks for that. And that will be really useful for a lot of students as well. And now let's get to a very interesting part, right? Like your way to MIT, because like a lot of people, they're like, oh yeah, I know like a lot of students, they have like all these dreams, right? Like they're gonna like really achieve the best. But sometimes their dreams, of course, they don't really materialize as they plan, for example. So so a lot of students right now, they are like, how do I really get to MIT? Like MIT or the like of those top universities where they can get there and like get challenged and give the best of their potential. So maybe a bit of like, how was the story, first of all? Like, how did you get to MIT?
So first, when I graduated, I didn't even like I wasn't even thinking of MIT at all. It was not in my plans, it was not in my thoughts, like
Yeah.
at all.
Oh,
I was fixed on going to University of Dar es Salaam, at least after Form 6. I
yeah.
was like, yeah, that's where I was gonna go. I'm going there, I'm going to study civil engineering and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And when I was close to graduating, I remember really wanting to get this scholarship at the University of Dar es Salaam. It's offered, well, it's not specific to UDSM, but it's specific to female students who have achieved a high performance in STEM in their national exams.
Yeah.
The Molinier scholarship
Oh, yeah.
offered by BOT. Good
Yeah.
stuff, by the way. Shout out to them.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I really, really wish I would get the scholarship.
Yeah.
That was before I graduated, before my national exams. But I knew it would depend on my national exams. And so I was like, I hope I'm going to do well so that I would get it.
Yeah.
And that tells you where my mentality was, like, go to UDSM and, get a scholarship to study there or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I graduated, buying my time at home, waiting for my results to come out. July, the results, they give us our results. Yeah, I've done well. I think it was a week or 1.5 weeks after they released our results. I got a text from this guy who was an intern at Tensao. Shout out to him as well. I've always told him that text was like life changing. He graduated from MIT 1 year before me, but he was working at an NGO which was called Tensao by then.
Yeah.
And so he was working then. He was like, "Hey, we're reaching out, to people who have done well in their nectars and all that stuff." And he was like, come to Tensao. We deal with the scholarship stuff. We help students. We help to guide them apply to all of these schools and all that. So, come and let's talk more. And so I'm like, oh, okay. And around the time I had my parents, at least, they were not believers of going abroad and studying abroad and all of that stuff. Yeah, not at all. And so we had gone through that cycle after and we had these conversations after my Form 4s, because I had had an opportunity to go and study in one of the international schools. And at least, okay, not necessarily study, but they had invited me for an interview and all that, and we had turned it down because my parents were not, believers in all of this. And so when it happened again, and after Form 6, and I got that text, and I was like, okay, what do I do about this? But then there was a voice inside me that was like, you know what, let's just go check it out. Then we can come back and have this conversation with, my parents again, right? And so I was like, okay, I was so divided. And then when it was really close to the day that they had told me to go, a huge coincidence happened, right? We're driving in town with my dad, and he sees this thing. I think there was something happening at Golden Tulip Hotel that week, and Tensao had their offices at Golden Tulip. And he saw this huge banner that had like Golden Tulip and like the name of the event and all that. The event wasn't related to Tensao, but it was Golden Tulip. And was like, oh, by the way, I heard that that these people have their offices at Golden Tulip, and they do all of this scholarship stuff and all that. Maybe go and check them out and hear what they have to say about your results. And it was such a huge coincidence, because there I was, like, at the back of my mind, thinking of how I'm gonna go there without telling my parents, then come back and have this conversation with them. And my father actually tells me to go there, right? And I was like, oh, then I told him that, oh, they have actually reached out, blah, 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 blah. And he was so surprised. And he was like, okay, go, and then you'll tell me what they say. And so I went, of course, I went there, and I found that, they gave us these exams. Apparently they had this process of getting interns. They wanted to get a new batch of interns for the coming year, and the interns were specifically there to help other students who would come in, they would teach them, they would teach them different stuff in like science, math, and all of that stuff, so that they would prepare them to do SATs and ACTs and all of these standardized exams that are needed to get in American colleges.
Yeah.
So that's why they called us there, because they wanted to get the next batch of interns. Yeah, then what happened? And so we went here, we did all of these exams. We did these exams. At the end of the day, I don't know what process they used or what went on behind the scenes, but there were 3 of us left. Like they retained 3 of us at least till around August.
Yeah.
Then in August, the person who owned the NGO, he was on vacation. He came back and he decided to retain only 1 person. And so that a friend of mine who went to Harvard eventually, great guy, by the way, shout out to him as well.
Yeah.
So they retained him. Then the 2 of us, I and another friend of mine who eventually went to Tufts, the guy was like, he had heard about this BOT scholarship. He was like, you guys should check it out, blah, blah, blah. Then he was like, just do this, like stay here, apply, do your applications to go to US colleges. And yeah, when it's time for you to go to your local Tanzanian universities, just go. Then if it happens that your applications go well, you can come back if you happen to get them. If it happens that they don't work out, then you have a plan B, because it was like, yeah, this thing might or might not work out anyway.
Yeah.
And so we're like, yeah, okay. Like for me, it was actually, looking back, it was actually, I would say, I don't know, a good deal.
Yeah.
I up to this day, I don't know why he chose to still guide us, why I would say help, or I don't know, guide us in that whole application process.
Yeah.
Because we were not really interns per se. Like fine, down the line, we did go back, we did teach people and all that, but not in a way that our other colleagues did it.
Yeah.
And so I went through the whole process. I did all of the standardized exams under the guidance of Tensao. Then I did my MIT applications. Yeah, that was early action. Then in December was when they give you your early action results.
Yeah.
And December, I got my admission results, and I had gotten.
So how did you like receive that, or how was it like? So by that time, like first of all, like you already like enrolled at University of Dar es Salaam, right?
Yeah.
I
had
already
started
doing engineering there. So like
I had started. I started taking classes.
Oh, I see. Okay, incredible. So like tell us like how was it like getting the result? How was it? Like where were you? Like were you in the cafeteria or in class or like where did you like receive all these results?
So the results, MIT is just so weird. My God.
Yeah.
They have this geeky and nerdy and weird, but really cute stuff.
Yeah.
The results were released around 2 pi time.
Yeah.
Which was 6:28 p.m. Eastern time. Like it's 2 pi, right?
Yeah.
6:28 p.m. Eastern time, which in Tanzania, 7 hours GMT plus 3, which is 7 hours from Eastern time.
Yeah.
Was in the middle of the night. Like past midnight, right?
Yeah.
And so I stayed up. No, actually, I went for movies. I went to watch movies with my friends that day. They all knew that it was the day for my admission results and all that.
I see.
And so they all knew that I was so nervous and stuff.
Yeah.
And so, like in the evening, we went out. We went to watch movies, and it was a Thursday. I remember very well because I don't know, at Mlimani City, movies are usually on discounts on Thursday. And so it was a perfect day to go watch movies. 5,000 shillings.
Yeah.
And so we went to watch. I've forgotten what movie that was. But we were there till like really late at night, maybe 10 p.m., 11 p.m. So like perfect way to pass time, right?
Yeah.
So by the time we came out, I only had a few hours
Yeah.
I only had a few hours to wait. And so we went back to our hostels. At least everybody went back to their respective residence. A couple of us went back to our
Oh,
hostels because we were staying like in the same
all the
hostel.
oh,
Yeah, yeah. And so we went back.
yeah.
And I stayed awake. At least the others, I know that everyone else went to sleep. I stayed awake because yeah, obviously I had to stay awake.
Yeah.
And come 1:20, it was around 1 a.m. I think, yeah, 7 hours.
Yeah.
1 a.m., 1:15 a.m. Like you can imagine how nervous you are, right? Because this is
Yeah.
like life changing
Yeah.
admission decision. 1:15, I'm like 1:20, 1:25. And they
Yeah.
had given us a link. They'd given us a link to this whole separate portal. Again, it's MIT being MIT.
Yeah.
To this whole different portal that we had to open.
Yeah.
And checked it at 1:25. The portal was still closed.
Yeah.
Then I remember I checked my results, I think around 1:30 or 1:30 something. Like it wasn't exactly at 1:28. It was a few minutes past.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what, whatever the decision will be, it's fine. I told myself the same thing that I usually tell myself. Like I did my best and
Yeah.
all that stuff. And it doesn't mean that I'm any less or anything of the sort.
Yeah.
And so I checked the portal again at some time that was past 1:28.
Yeah.
And this time it was ready to open. Like I don't remember what they had written, but something along the lines of view your decision or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I clicked it open. And the first lines are like, well, like, yeah, I've forgotten okay what exactly it said, but I think the second line is usually the one that tells you, maybe the third. Yeah, we're delighted, blah blah blah, to welcome you to class of 2021. I was like, because everyone else was sleeping, right? I mean, this hostel that is crammed up,
Yeah.
like you know how the Udism hostels are like.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone else is fast asleep, so I can't scream. And so I remember I let out one of those silent screams, like you don't actually scream, but it's all silent. Yeah. And so I went to wake one of my friends. We were sharing a room.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, they were obviously happy and stuff. And the same night I went to this whole other block.
Yeah.
Like a few, I don't know if you've been to Udism, but there is like hall 1, hall 2, hall 3. So yeah, like in hall 1, because I used to stay at hall 1.
Yeah.
Hall 1. Then I went to one of the blocks that were in hall 1, like
all
2 or
that,
3 blocks down.
you know, all this during the night.
Yeah, like that was during the night, like 1 something, right? And so I went around, this time it was close to 2 a.m. I went there like all the way to, I don't know, it was the 3rd or 4th floor where my other friends, where my other friends were. And like I went to wake them. And I was like, yeah, I got it. And and they're obviously happy. And yeah, that basically sums up the night of me receiving my decision. Then yeah, the next morning I just told my family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations once again.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so then maybe once you go to MIT, like, did you feel any difference? Because at least you had a bit of experience with Udism, and yeah, did you like realize any difference in terms of like the student that you are in the class with, maybe the material that you learn in, the preparedness that you had from the high school? Like, did you like realize, oh, this is another level that I need maybe to step up and do more, or you just fit in very easily from the day one?
No, I definitely didn't fit in easily. That's one of the things that at least I've had a chance of telling the few people that I've had, very long conversations about my experience. So whenever I've wanted to talk to somebody about something in life and all that, I usually give examples about my experience at MIT. No, it wasn't easy. It wasn't, and I would say it wasn't easy at all, actually. One, because I had to change, I would say, my entire mentality. There was one factor that was independent of MIT, just the US itself. It's a whole different world here, a whole different world from the world that I grew up in, from Tanzania.
Yeah.
So one was fitting in this new world, or trying to I would say be comfortable with who I was as I was adapting to the new world.
Yeah.
That was one challenge. I would say that was actually the most difficult challenge I had in the first maybe 1 or 2 years or something of my studies. Yeah, it's a different world culturally. It's a different world. It's different in terms of everything. Like I can't even go to specific examples.
Yeah.
And so that usually it comes with, like, the fact that it's different comes with, yeah, it comes with challenges of its own. And I guess in my case, it also brought challenges like, for the first time, I even questioned, like, am I speaking the right way? The way we speak with an accent and stuff like that. And you try to talk to people, right? You try to talk to people and people are always like,
what?
Well, not always, but people would ask, what is this you said? What is that you said? Simply because you're saying it with an accent that they are not familiar with.
Yeah.
And that brings a lot of, questions, right? And effects with self-esteem and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that was one challenge. Then the other side was now the MIT one. The one that was related to MIT was the American education system is very different from the education system that we come from.
Yeah.
And I don't even think that it's an American versus British thing. Maybe it is, I don't know. But it's different in terms of, in the US, kids here are taught to, one, they're expected to be very vocal. You're expected to be very vocal in class. Your knowledge will be tested that way. I took a couple of classes that were heavy on the project side, heavily project-based, which was a whole different atmosphere from classes that I had taken in the past. In school, that were, you would be assessed in terms of exams and regular class exercises, written stuff in short, and not project-based classes, whereby I would give an example. For instance, in my sophomore year, one of the classes, well, two of the classes I took were actually project-based. But I remember in one of them, the civil engineering design class, we were asked, to think of projects that we would like to do for that class. And we're just given a prompt. So like, go around and try to identify problems that you're seeing around you and things that you would like to solve. Then come back in the next class and we'll talk about them. Then we'll shape up your project starting from there. And so for somebody like me who is used to, like, I'm not used to being told to do things that way. Like the way I had been assessed in the past was, a teacher would come in, they would have a project, they would have a problem, and they would solve me. And in most cases, like, the project even had, the problem that the teacher would present even had constraints and all of that stuff. Maybe I had to do a certain calculation with certain formulas already out there. Like, they weren't telling me to come up with my own formulas or something. Or maybe, in civil engineering design, right, they would tell you, maybe make a drawing of this particular thing. But they were not telling me to go out there and like identify problems around me, then think of how to solve them, think of the constraints on your own, think of all of those things. So that is how the American education system is. And it was very different from the system of education that I was used to. And that took some time. It took some time getting used to. And that was challenging. And then, and the fact that you are always expected to be vocal. I was so surprised, by the way. Teachers would always be like, what do you think? What is that? What is that? And as somebody who is from an education system like the Tanzanian one, I'm like, okay, fine. In Tanzania, teachers would still ask us, right? What is the answer to this? What is the answer to that? But those were questions that were, like, they had answers that were clear. They had answers that existed before. Not like in the US, whereby somebody would ask you an open-ended question, or a teacher would expect you to challenge them. We don't challenge teachers where I come from. Like, fine, I used to do it, but I also used to do it within limits of things that existed already. Like, I'm like, this is what is in the books, this is what and what not. But here, somebody expects you to challenge them based on some facts that they're saying. And I'm like, this is in the books. Why would I challenge you
Yeah.
on something that I know exists, right?
Yeah.
But that is how those were the expectations. The fact that the expectations were different,
I
the
see.
system was different. They assessed like the metrics of performance were different. And I found that to be challenging. I mean, at the end of the day, fine, there were challenges that fine. I did like I had a good experience, I would say overall. I graduated, I did well, but it involved a whole mentality shift as far as my thinking was concerned. And also just adapting to a new world.
Yeah. So maybe like you mentioned like the system gaps, right? Like, but did you like realize any strength that we had given our system, right? Like something like, oh yeah, these kids they have this system that they are like probably the challenge more, but maybe our system is very good at this point.
Yeah. That I definitely did. And I forgot to mention, yeah, some things that I'll credit to the Tanzanian system. I think our system, the most noticeable one is it's kind of built to break us. So the system with the national exams, for instance, whereby you have this exam that you can only take once in 1 year, and it assesses the things you've done for 4 years.
Yeah.
For 2 years, you mess that up. You're like, oh, sure, I don't know, I have to repeat it under these different conditions, or I cannot go to college and all that. Like that actually puts you under a lot of stress. And I feel like it builds perseverance. Like
Yeah.
our education system makes people be very, very perseverant. I credit all my perseverance, even through my challenges in the US and all that, to Tanzanian education system, both the academic side and the non-academic side, like boarding school and all the challenges that come with it.
Yeah.
That's one. I think two, as for people who like I did PCM, so like heavily quantitative courses, people like me who did heavily quantitative courses in Form 5 and 6, and even like the little quantitative study that we did, like from Form 1 to Form 4, the background that you have as far as the quantitative side of things that you did is concerned is, I would say, a little bit higher than people who have done the American system. I would say a little bit higher. Yeah, I guess it's because, like, I don't know, for instance, in the US, because they want you to focus more on concepts and stuff like that. You don't have to memorize things like formula. The exams whereby you can go in with cheat sheets with all the formulas written there, and that's okay because they just want you to know how certain concepts come about, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of, like, as far as you being able to retain things, to memorize things, that kind of, it doesn't build that ability in you, while the Tanzanian education system does that, and it could be useful in certain things.
Yeah.
Then there is also just the quantitative side, the fact that we were not allowed to use calculators, I think, up till much, much later.
Yeah.
And so you had to learn to do a lot of mental math, like a lot of it. And especially with exams that were very long and all that.
Yeah.
If you're not able to calculate things in your mind really fast, like there was no way you would finish them and stuff. And that really, really builds up your quantitative ability. But with the US education system, again, that's not an area that they want to focus in. So a lot of people, at least I realized that, I had a good ability to do mental, the mental stuff, and like calculate a lot of things mentally, just get an idea of this number would lead to this, to that, just because of my background, and I can attribute that to the Tanzanian system.
Yeah. So maybe like in summary, right? Like, so the couple of like students right now, maybe studying at the University of Dar es Salaam, University of Dodoma, and other university, and probably they won't have opportunity to like get to MIT, right? But still, I wanna like like what will be like the top lessons that you think that you learned because you are at MIT that they can also probably learn these things while they are still at uni or outside the campus?
There is just one main thing,
Yeah.
because everything else I'll say will just fall under this one basket. Think outside of the box. Think outside of the box. And it could be a little bit hard because our education system forces you to stay in a box.
Yeah.
But if you want to get out of it, you actually can. And I have a friend who studied in Nudism, and I've always been impressed by the way the guy thinks and the way he gets out of the box, and he's always doing this project and that project and that project, being very creative. So think outside of the box. Don't limit yourself to things that you just learn in class. If you're learning A, B, C in class, and with the world that you're in right now, the internet has a lot of things. There are a lot of online classes, a lot of resources. Learn A, B, C, make use of all of these free resources to learn D, E, F. And even once it comes to your learning and later in life, once you get a job and stuff like that, just try to be somebody who is always looking forward or looking towards solving problems, thinking creatively. One of the weaknesses with our education system is that we are spoon-fed a lot of things. So maybe spoon-feeding is not the right word, but the teacher says this, and that is what we produce out there. Like, we depend on what the teacher says or what the books say, and if this comes in, that is what comes out. Don't be somebody who is limited in that world. Try to get out of that, and then it will just help you in general, help you just as a person, and not only things that are related to your academics and your career, but just how to solve problems in general. It will also help you just be a well-rounded person, and that increases your career prospects.
Oh, that's impressive. Well, thanks a lot for that. So last 3 questions. One is, in summary, there is this student out there who he or she is looking to get a division 1 or 2 so that she or he can get to either high school or get to uni.
Yeah.
What will be, how can she or he achieve that?
I would go back to what I said on one of the first questions that you asked me. Time. Do everything at the right time. Use your time well. That when it's time to study, study. When it's time to do this, so that, like, learn to manage your time well, learn to do that pretty early in your life, and it will help you. Just do the most basic things. Do the most basic things as far as time management is concerned. Do everything at the right time. 1, and 2, again, as I said earlier, a lot of the exams that they give us to assess, our performance and assess our learning and stuff like that have a format. They have some template or something like that. Hack that. Like, there's a way to sort of hack it. I wouldn't say 100%, but there's a way to sort of hack it, which is practice, 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 because the type of questions that we'll ask you, in most cases, they'll more or less be the same, just some variation, but of almost the same thing. And you can hack it by doing many of those questions as possible. Of course, not just doing questions for the sake of doing them. It's also important for you to understand the fundamental concepts behind them, but which I feel like you can build your understanding of those fundamental questions by doing as many as possible. And another thing that people could do, again, to hack these exams, you're really close to, when one is really close to national exams and stuff like that. And this was kind of my experience in A-level. it happens a lot to some people in some schools that for some reason, resources or whatever, let's say you have fallen behind, your teacher hasn't finished certain topics, or you as a student, maybe there are certain topics that you're not that comfortable in. Their templates, for instance, as an A-level student, the pure math exam, there are usually two of them, right? Math one and math two.
Yeah.
Maybe you know that math two has these and these and these and these and these topics. The first section has these topics. The second section has these topics. If there's certain topics that you people never covered at all, or you barely covered, or you feel like you're not so good in, put a lot of effort in mastering the others that you're really good in, so that when your national exams come, at the very least, you know that there are certain questions that you're able to answer. You have a high probability of answering really, really, really well. So yeah, that's another thing that I would advise. It doesn't help as far as, well, it kind of helps as far as the learning if you try to understand the fundamentals as you do practice problems.
Yeah.
But it helps even more as far as you approach exams, because these are life-defining exams and life-changing exams. And it relates to your question as far as getting that Division 1 and Division 2 is concerned. It helps at least as far as that is concerned, like to maximize your potential of getting good grades that will ensure that you move to the next level.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think that is like the whole like rules or standards that if a student can follow, I'm sure they're gonna get to where you got. The second one is this student already got his Division 1 at least, right? How does he or she get to MIT or the other top units? Like, how should they prepare for this? Because this is like there is so much like transformation from like getting from high school to get to apply to university outside Tanzania, right? So how will you like tell someone how will he or she have to prepare? Like, first of all, like when do they have to start preparing for this, and how should they prepare?
For going to unis abroad?
Yeah, going to uni abroad, yeah.
I would say as early as when they get to Form 5, as early as that. Like for somebody who is really determined to going abroad and all that, like you're not depending on chance and all that like me and bits of luck here and there. Yeah, start as early as Form 5. Start as early as that because one, as far as the US colleges are concerned, and I believe several other countries, it's not just your academics that matter. Like these people want somebody who is well-rounded. So they will look at your activities, they will look at it. I've usually give an example of MIT when people ask me this question. MIT wants people who are life changers, like people who try to change things in the world that they come from. And this could take a lot of forms and faces and definitions, but somebody who is like, okay, I want to go to MIT, maybe this can inspire you. I'm not saying fake it so that you'd go there for 2 years, try to do things that are life-changing just so that you'd make it. But let's say you could start doing, that could inspire you to start doing things that would actually be useful for the world you come from. And down the line, they would help you once you're writing your essays and stuff like that. When you look back, you actually have stuff to write. So yeah, that will prepare you in that way. One, filling in the gaps of areas that you might not be that well-rounded, because with our education, we focus a lot on the academics, and these are some of those things that are usually not that encouraged, or in some cases ignored. Leadership and stuff like that. Then I would also say start early just so that you would know what to expect. For instance, when I was telling you my story about the whole I did ACTs and all that, I had never seen ACTs till, or even heard of them, to be honest, till I went to Tanzania when they called us for that whole internship interview and stuff. But it makes a whole world of difference in your preparation if you know about these things earlier, and if you start preparing for them early. Because the good thing about these standardized exams, they're actually exams that you can retake. If you don't do well, let's say, you can take them again, you can take them again.
Yeah.
But then if you wait till last minute, let's say like somebody like me who did them after graduating, and you want to apply in the same cycle, you have only one chance to take them, right?
Yeah.
You're playing with probabilities and stuff like that here. So do all of these things early because of that. What else? Yeah, also it will just help you research. You can take your time early to research schools that would be a good fit for you.
Yeah.
And this happens to be one, I would say, of the big weaknesses with we who come from, I don't know, I would speak a lot about Tanzania. So we who come from Tanzania, maybe because I saw my colleagues and myself,
Yeah.
we just know, okay, there is MIT, it's really good in engineering and stuff like that. There is the likes of Harvard, Stanford, and blah, 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 and all of this stuff. When you start doing all of this late, and especially somebody who did not know much about these schools in the first place, you might find that you end up at a school that is not really, like the culture and all that does not really fit what you want, or even the academic curriculum of the courses that you want to take. Like they're not really fitting what you want. And so if you research early, this will kind of help you find a place that would be the best fit for you.
Oh, thanks a lot for that. And I'm sure that's really useful. And the last one is, you mentioned a bit about your parents, their role they play in you getting you where you are right now. So what will be your advice to parents? Like what should they at least do to help their children achieve all these great success in their kids' academic journey?
That's a very, very difficult question.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult one. It's a difficult one. So I'm just going to give a simple answer to a very difficult question, admitting that it might not be fitting enough. My parents are people who I have memories of my mother several times, sitting down with my mom when I was really, really young, and she giving me practice questions or exercises and stuff like that. And I remember I would get some things wrong and I would get so angry, and she would tell me that I'm an angry learner. But things like that, right? So parents taking time to actively participate and in their kids' academics, in terms of checking their schoolwork, in terms of helping them with their schoolwork. I have so many memories of my father doing that as well, when I was very young. And later down the line, when we went to secondary school and stuff, and you're in boarding school, they can't check your homework every day. But we would come back and we would sit with my dad, tell him, okay, this class was that way, that class was that way. Our report cards would come in, and he would actively check, actively see how it was we were doing in school. He would actively check in, I remember, with the sisters at St. Francis, to know how we were doing, and to see if if there was something else maybe we weren't telling him and stuff. So again, that goes back to the point of parents just being active as far as the academic lives of their kids are concerned. Like, be an active parent rather than a passive one, despite how busy life can get, like especially with modern day parenting. But try to do your best to be an active parent with your kids' academics. There is that. Then there is also just being an inspiration. I think for me, the biggest thing is not even that my parents used to check my homework or something when I was young. It's the fact that every day I'm like I always have somebody. I always had somebody to look up to. I still have that person, by the way.
Yeah.
And that has made a very, very, very big difference, in terms of the way I have conducted myself academically, in terms of the expectations that I set for myself, which I don't know, have defined my relative success down the line. So I think parents could yeah, they could do that as well. And I would say that that's something in terms of being an inspiration. My father was, it's not something that he actively worked on, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, for him, it was just being who he was every day, doing his job well, doing something that I don't know, I felt actually mattered for society and stuff like that. And, at the end of the day, it made a huge impact on who I was as a person in my academic life. So maybe parents could do that as well. But again, I admit it's a simple answer to a very complex question.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Thanks a lot for like yeah, at least I'm sure that will help some parents to know what at least they can help their kids achieve their very best. Yeah. So thank you a lot for your time, and it was an incredible opportunity talking to you, and you have shared with us a lot of very incredible insights, and I'm sure this will be really really helpful to students, as well as parents, and even teachers who really want to make sure that their students achieve the very best. So thanks a lot. And in case if there will be any questions from people viewing this, we'll contact you and help us to respond to them directly. So once again,
Yeah.
congratulations for getting to MIT, and congratulations for your masters. And we wish you all the best, and looking forward to talking to you at some time in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you as well. Thank you for the platform and I guess for giving me a chance to share a few of my ideas.
Thanks a lot, and have an incredible time there.
Thank you.
Okay, cheers, bye.
Yeah.